Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Monday. It's August 27th. This will be our chart lesson for the day. And nice uptrend today. This was a strong trend. Generally, when you start to see a lot of little bars like this, that very shallow corrections and dojis and stuff thrown in there, stems, and they just keep going higher and higher. That's generally a strong trend. We really had two legs up, and then had another two legs up here, and um, it was just too steep really to continue like that. And notice how it kind of flattened over in the trend. We didn't go a whole lot higher than the high we made around 9:30 or so, and we didn't go a whole lot higher than that. We actually had a break of this channel, and then a couple of legs up, and then we really traded down after that. But I would still consider this an uptrend because there's just a little flatter two-tiered channel. You might have considered these shorts up here. We'll talk about those when we get to them. We did have a break here and a couple of legs up, and you can see we had a double test there. So, and we're still a little ways away from the EMA. So I kind of like that one for sure. Here, you got back under the midline and you tested it a couple of times, and it did confirm this trend line. So, and there's plenty of room to get out before you get back to this trend line. And notice from there, we kind of, even though we got outside of that trend line, we still continue to work higher. So the trend was still intact, and it's not smart to try to pick tops or short some of these really strong trends. Um, but in this case, it had flattened out, and it was pretty much confirmed up here. So you had to figure we're coming back down at this point. So you might consider those, but we'll talk about them when we get to them. You're better off just to stick with these longs. But you would have had to wait this out because we really played out to the upside, and we probably weren't going higher again until we got back down to this key entry point, and that's where we actually started working up again. Way too late in the day at that point, but that's pretty much to be expected. So this played out relatively straightforward. All these short-term trends were real obvious. You didn't really, I mean, once we got up in here, we were way too far away from the EMA to be trying to enter long anymore. That's the reason you don't see many more longs. There's actually a new low here and a failed second entry short here. We did come back to this trend line here, but you got to go long at the eye of the day, and same thing all the way up there. Just been too away from the EMA far too long. So, but anyway, first trade I saw possibility was right around the 7 o'clock hour, just after 7 o'clock. We'd already had one leg up. You can see there. We were working on the second leg, and we didn't quite have it yet. And we just really came back to that trend line with the failed second entry short. So with that being a failed second entry short, right off that little short-term trend line, you may consider that one. It's a little risky, so I made that one green. Same thing coming back down. It's a little risky going short, but notice we do have a close outside a high, and then we basically made a double top there in the lower high, and it went higher and turned and went out the other side. You've been away from the EMA a long time, so that one's real close. You could almost argue for that one to be blue, but it's just right there, borderline. I went ahead and marked it green, but that's a trade I like. So if you took that trade and you felt pretty confident in it in your read, then um, and you felt like it should have been blue, then I'd be okay with it. But it's just a little risky going short on a trend that strong. But notice that we had two legs back to the EMA and the main trend line, and that pretty much confirmed the trend line on the second entry long. So I like going long right there. And you didn't need to catch but one or two of these today because there were several of them had runners. Either of these two, you probably would have caught a runner. This one would have had a runner. You wouldn't have caught one here. But even though there's not a lot of trades, several of them would have caught a runner. If you went short up here, this would have caught a runner. I don't know if you'd want to hang on to it, a runner, very much longer through all this right here. I probably would exit if I did enter there. Um, Same thing here. Once we got to this lower side of the trend line, you probably want to exit right there. So, but we talked about these these two, you had your failed second entry short here, and it took off, and you would have had a runner most likely there. Then it backs up. Notice we got a close outside here, and you got a first entry, pull back, and there's a second entry right there. But there's just a little too much sideways. We're underneath the EMA, the whole 9 yards. I'm not crazy about it. But when we got a failed second entry short here and pretty much confirmed those first 2 swings with that trend line right there, I like going long above this bar. Your stop still has to go down here. You probably had to you may have had to ride this out for it to come up here, depending on how where your entry was on your chart. You might have had a little different entry here, but it is a double test, and it does confirm this trend line. Then we come back, and we get another bounce right off that key entry point, and it's a nice little bullish reversal. I like going long there. And it takes off this time, and it just creeps up that little short-term trend line until you get a break, and then a couple of legs up to a new high, and then it turns down. But notice we turned down off that. We tried to go higher once, try to go higher twice. It fails, gives you a relatively bearish bar. Go short right there. If nothing else, just to ride it back to the EMA, or the EMA in the midline right there. But notice how it pushes through, and it pulls back, and it tests that midline several times before it gives up and turns back down again. And this is just a double test. We tested this once, and we come back, tested it again, and tested it a second time. Nice bearish bar, and we're probably headed down to here. This is a little bit sideways, so, but this is also a little failed break higher here. Even this one was. But I'd be a little leery about going short into that one right into the low. But you get a little better entry here. And after that double test of that midline, plus it confirms this trend line coming down. You really confirmed it here. But that just gives you further confirmation. And it makes a double top there too. So I'd be a little leery of entering here. But now that you've really confirmed this trend line coming down a few times, and we're still underneath that midline, that'd probably be worth risking to ride it down. So, and plus, you know, now we're making lower highs and lower lows. We made a much lower double top than these last 2 swing highs. So we're basically making lower highs and lower lows now. Even though there's still some sideways action here, we're still making lower, because you make a lower low there, and then this is a double top, so it's basically a lower high. And notice we made another one here. If this wasn't after 2 o'clock, I wouldn't be afraid to enter there on that second entry short, just to try to ride it back down to this trend line. And we could keep going lower, so it was worth risking there. And that was really about it today. There weren't a lot of entries. It was a fairly strong trend, but if you didn't catch one of these early moves, it just kind of went flat up here. And again, these shorts, I made these 2 red for all the reasons I talked about, but a lot of times, you know, you're just better off not to try to short. You'd be better off to wait on it to come back. Of course, if you did, you wouldn't have another trade after about 10:30 today, because it just got really slow up here. I mean, we're almost at 2,900. We made it to 29.9750 today. This thing just, you know, it's rocketing higher. So, but it was a nice day. Like I said, not a lot of trades, but there were some good entries here. And you might have even considered one of these shorts off here. With this thing making higher highs and higher lows for the most part, I just think it's too risky, because eventually it's probably going to take off like it did here and shoot for a new high, especially when it's kind of confirming that trend line across there. So just stay with your longs for the most part. And then once we had this, you know, 2 legs up to a new high, and we confirm this trend channel line and then lower highs, then you might consider some shorts. So you really want to have a confirmed trend in the opposite direction before you go short, and you don't really have that here. You're really just going sideways. So I don't think you want to risk any shorts right in there. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. There's no sense in dragging this one on today. It's pretty straightforward. It's all uphill. You can see even through here, the trend or the EMA is still up, and the prices are still consistently above it. So just keep that in mind. You want to stay a little long when it's like that for the most part. So, but I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again and do it tomorrow. I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.